"You're such a failure, you won't make it anywhere." I left my job and moved back in with my folks. Those words my boss used to say weighed heavily on me. But, "Mister, I'm here." Little did I know, meeting this young girl would change my life completely. My name is John Smith. I used to work for a small subcontracting company in the apparel industry. Now that I've left, I can see it was what you'd call exploitative company. "John, it's you again. You're seriously useless." The office was filled with yelling almost every day. And back then, I was too exhausted to even recognize something was wrong. The boss's yelling was a daily ritual. Many colleagues couldn't take the bullying and quit. "You can't do anything right. There are plenty of people who could take your place. If you can't handle the work for the pay, just quit." Those words from my boss hurt, but quitting wasn't an option. I lost my mom to illness when I was a kid, and since then my dad raised me all by himself. He was a carpenter. By doing housework which he was not used to, as well as physical labor as a carpenter, he still managed to send me to college. However, his years of hard work took a toll, and he couldn't work as much these past few years. I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet quickly and ease his worries, so I took the job at this company. Ideally, I wanted to work close to my hometown, but job opportunities were scarce, so I ended up moving to New York City. I sent my dad some money every month, though it wasn't much, but my life as a working man didn't go smoothly. Being clumsy, I kept messing up at work, and every time, my boss would yell at me. There were a few good people among my colleagues, but they didn't really help, probably scared of becoming targets of his anger. Worn out from work, and in a new city, there was no way I could make friends or find a girlfriend. I felt lonelier each day, but I couldn't let my dad worry, so I never told him how tough work was. "John, stop sending me money every month. Don't worry about me. I've saved enough to get by," my dad would say on the phone. "I'm doing fine here. But you, Pops, you're not young anymore. Take it easy." I tried to put on a brave face, but I wasn't sure if I was pulling it off. "John, if things are too hard, you can always come back home." My dad didn't say it outright, but maybe he could sense something. I was torn by his kind words, but I couldn't just rely on him. I had to pull myself together. That's what I thought, until that huge mistake. One time, a client complained about a product we delivered. It was about handkerchiefs with embroidery. The design was all wrong. "John, what on earth have you done? This is serious." My boss glared at me. "Our client, Modeware, is the biggest clothing manufacturer in the country. Though they have most of their production bases overseas, the president took a liking to our company's quality and has been placing orders for hand towels with us for years. I'm going to apologize to them with my boss. This is unacceptable, Brian. These are unsellable." As soon as we were let into the room, an enraged representative approached us. "I'm deeply sorry. Come on, this is on you." "Apologize sincerely, you idiot." My boss grabs my head and forces me to bow. "I am terribly sorry. It was my carelessness. We will take prompt action. We're already arranging to reproduce the items and will re-deliver within this month. I'm truly sorry for the trouble caused." I apologized desperately. "I screwed up. This mistake is huge." Then, the president of Modeware, who had been silent, spoke for the first time. "Well, we have had a long relationship with your company, so I let it slide just this once. Let me know when you're ready to deliver again. But please dispose of the products with the wrong design yourselves." The small-statured man, who exuded the dignity of a president, said this while looking straight at us. My boss looked immensely relieved at his words. "Thank you very much. Yes, of course, I'm terribly sorry for the trouble. John, make sure you handle the disposal later." "Yes, sir." Thanks to the goodwill of the client's president, we were saved from disaster, but my boss's anger didn't subside. Back at the office, my boss called me in. John, you're fired. What? You're fired. All you do is cause trouble for the company. There's no reason to keep someone like you around. You have to take responsibility. Wait a minute. I'll get it together, I promise. No, the decision's been made. You're not cut out for this kind of work. See ya. Oh, and take all those handkerchiefs with you as a farewell gift. No way, but there was nothing I could do. I was indeed a worthless newbie and there was nothing to do but accept it. I left the company carrying several boxes full of handkerchiefs to be disposed of. Things got tough after that. There were no companies willing to hire someone who lost their job in their first year. Getting another job was a long shot. I applied to any job opening I could find while working part-time to earn a living. I barely made ends meet, but my savings quickly ran out, and eventually, my mental health took a hit. I couldn't send money to my dad anymore, and sensing something was wrong, he made me move back to his home. I was filled with a sense of powerlessness and frustration. When I was packing up my apartment in New York, I found a room full of handkerchiefs. I wanted to get rid of them earlier, but I couldn't bring myself to throw away something usable, so they just stayed there. The boxes of handkerchiefs symbolized my failure. When I arrived at the station closest to my parents' house, it felt like I hadn't been there for years. Away from the hustle and bustle of the city, my hometown is surrounded by nothing but pastoral landscapes. The leisurely passage of time in the place I was born was such a relief for me at that moment. Feeling like I was constantly chasing something, I took a deep breath. As I started to walk toward my parents' house, I saw a 10-year-old girl lying in the middle of the road. There was a bike toppled over next to her. Seems like she had a spill after her tires caught on the gravel road. The girl had hurt her leg, and I could see blood soaking into her skirt. Alarmed, I ran over to her right away. "You all right, darling?" I pulled a water bottle from my bag and rinsed the cut. She grimaced for a moment, maybe because it stung, but she gritted her teeth and didn't shed a tear. But the bleeding wouldn't stop, and darn, I didn't have any band-aids on me. Well, shoot, I got it. I had an idea and took a handkerchief from my bag and wrapped it around the wound. "This should do for now. Good thing it's not too deep. Thank you. But your handkerchief has blood on it now. I need to make it right," she said in a small voice. "Don't you worry about that, sweetheart. It's all good. Funny enough, I never thought this handkerchief would come in handy like this." I gave a wry smile. "By the way, were you on your way to school?" She shook her head. "Come to think of it, it was too late in the day for school." And upon a closer look, I didn't recognize the school uniform she was wearing. We only had one elementary school around here, and they didn't have uniforms. Where in the world did this little lady come from? "Where's your mom or dad?" As soon as I asked, the tears she had held back started flowing. "I want to go to the hospital. I want to see my mommy." Hospital. I was taken aback, but I waited until she calmed down to ask her what happened. She tried her best to explain. Turns out, she goes to an elementary school in New York City. But her mom got sick and was admitted to a hospital here, where her mom's family is from. She's living with her dad now, but he's always at work before dawn and comes back home late. She can barely visit her mom on weekends, and she's been feeling real lonely. Wanting to see her mom so bad, she snuck out of the house and was on her way to the hospital. What surprised me was that she had pedaled her bike over 12 miles to get here. A girl of about 10 years old had made her way here all by herself on a bicycle since the morning. She didn't know her dad's contact info when I asked. I was worried about leaving her like this, but luckily, the hospital her mom was in was nearby, so I decided to take her there. Since I lost my own mom back in the day, the little girl's actions really tugged at my heartstrings. I could tell she was really freaked out. Seeing my younger self in her, I felt like I wanted to do something for her. When we got to the hospital, I explained the situation at the reception and left the girl in their care. "Thanks, mister." As I turned to leave, she kept waving at me. I felt good, like I actually helped someone for the first time in a while. All I could do now was pray that her mom would get better. After that, I got back to my folks' place, but job hunting still wasn't going so hot. To begin with, job opportunities were as scarce as hen's teeth around here. There was no way I'd find something easily. Above all, my confidence was down in the dumps. Can't have dad worrying about me. Gotta stand on my own 2 feet, I kept telling myself, but the boss's words, "You're such a failure, you won't make it anywhere," always weighed heavily on my mind. In the end, I was just drifting along, living a deadbeat life at home. Then one day, the doorbell rang, and I heard, "Mister, I came to say thanks for the other day." It was the little girl. She came all this way to thank me. What a polite kid. That alone was a surprise, but what really blew me away came next. When I stepped outside, there was a man in a snazzy suit who seemed to be her dad, standing next to the lively, smiling girl. My jaw dropped when I saw his face. What are you doing here?" It was the president of Modeware. "Mr. Smith, right? I thought it might be you. My daughter told me what you did for her." "Thank you so much," he said, his eyes welling up. He explained what had happened. That day, I got a voicemail saying my daughter didn't come to school, but I was too swamped to notice. Turns out it was quite a stir at this school. My wife called to say she was at the hospital, and when I heard she was hurt, my heart almost stopped. I had no idea she would try to go to the hospital on her own. I guess she's been really lonely without her mom. It showed how much I hadn't been there for her. I'm ashamed to say I failed as a father. I had no idea, but she was lucky to have met a kind soul like you. And who would have guessed it was you? No, it was nothing, but how did you know it was me? I heard the name you left at the hospital reception. Plus, the handkerchief. You bandaged her with it, right? I recognized it as one of our products. But the design was wrong, and that's when it clicked. I reached out to the company you worked at, but they said you'd quit. I laid it all out for him. I see. I had no idea. I'm sorry for any inconvenience I may have caused. To be honest, I hadn't given it much thought since it's water under the bridge. But hey, I want to thank you, and if you're looking for a job, how about coming to work with us? I couldn't possibly take a job for something so trivial. I declined. No, that's not all. Truth be told, I've thought highly of you for a while now. We've been doing business with your company for ages, but I was always fed up with that Brian fella. I thought he was too hard on his subordinates. The buck should have stopped with him. He's the boss. Normally, you double-check things. He's the one who slacked off. But you were honest. You owned up to your mistake and thought about how to make things right. People who can turn their failures into something positive will accomplish great things down the line. Who would have thought someone would think that way about me? It felt like for the first time since becoming a working adult, someone acknowledged me. So now I'm employed at Modeware. The atmosphere in the office is great and I can work comfortably. I moved into the company dorm in New York and started sending money back to my dad. I couldn't be more grateful to the president. The little girl began to visit the company dorm occasionally. "Hey, big bro, I'm here." She seems to have grown a little taller. She took a real shine to you. She even talks about marrying you one day. I wouldn't have any complaints if that happened. The president says with a laugh, "Oh no, that's way too gracious of you," I say with a wry smile. By the way, the girl's mom is out of the hospital and the little girl doesn't seem lonely anymore. I'm relieved she didn't end up like I did back in the day. I am overjoyed. The little girl looks at me and beams with a smile. Tied to her backpack, she had that handkerchief.